Hello everyone, let's get started. Yeah. Hello everyone, I hope more people will join in a short period of time. Uh, if you are joining first time, so let me introduce about we are we are a part of the Microsoft user Singapore group. Let me just a moment. I think yeah. So hi, yeah. So we are a part of a Microsoft user group, and Azure Singapore is a small part of it, and we do a lot of sessions, so a lot of events under the data, AI, and as well as Office. The Azure part is means like so we are there are five organizers. These we are the first five organizers, okay, for the Azure Singapore. And so if you want to present a session or if you want to organize any meetup, so you can contact any one of us. And you can also join our community by Facebook or Meetup link, and there is also a YouTube channel. And either you can if you have any queries, so you can also reach out to us. And before start, there are some couple of sessions we have done in past. So here is the link. So if you want to see those previous sessions, so you can just click on the link and you know can see all the sessions recordings there. And this month is completely dedicated to DevOps. So we have done this month we have done part 2 DevOps session previously in past 2 weeks. So like pragmatic DevOps how and why by Damien, and there was one more session by Puneet and Sam Kogan on DevOps. So if you want to take a look, so you can just go and take a look on this link. And this today's our last session for the DevOps series, which is by Chaminda Chandrasekara. He is a Microsoft MVP and on DevOps, and also he's having a more than 20 years experience, and he's from Sri Lanka. And today he's going to talk on the topic of embracing DevOps effectively to increase productivity and quality. And he's having a lot of experience in DevOps CI/CD, and you can also refer his blogs, and you can also reach him out on the LinkedIn, and he's quite active on the Twitter, so you can also follow him. And apart from that, we have also done some previous sessions related to DevOps. That was means like by Donovan Braun, or there was a couple of sessions like infrastructure as a code by ARM templates, and this is our two sessions which we have done in past 2 weeks. So there is a YouTube link here given, so you can just go and take a look if you want. And all these sessions are actually available on Microsoft User Group, our YouTube channel, so you can take a look there. And this is our YouTube channel, MVP United. You can just go and subscribe the YouTube channel, so you can get all the list of the sessions we have done in past in all the communities, like in Microsoft Singapore User Group, Azure Singapore, or either data community, or there are quite number of good sessions, so you can just go and take a look there. And you can also scan the QR code to search the YouTube channel. And there is also some chartbuster sessions we have done in past, so you can also take a look by the same link which I have shown before, as your Singapore sessions. And this last after this sessions, we will be taking a small break at the end of December. So Merry Christmas and very Happy New Year to all of you from Azure Singapore community. And at last, there is some housekeeping reminders. Keep yourself on mute during the sessions. If you have any questions, you can also put in the chat box, or you can choose a raise hand feature in Microsoft Team to ask the questions. And this session is being recorded, and we will be uploading recordings on our YouTube channel by end of this uh, by end of this week. And if you like the session, so please spread words on YouTube, or means on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, whatever channels you are active. Okay. So yeah, thank you for. So now I'm just going to give access to Chaminda. Hi, Chandrasekara, you're there, so you can share your screen.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Asif. So let me take it from here. Let me first share my presentation to you guys. Okay. Hope this can be seen.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, good. So let me start talking about this. So what we are going to discuss today is how effectively we can use DevOps in enhancing our productivity and in development or delivery of our software to our clients. So in that aspect, like what we are gonna focus mainly on is a couple of things. So let me uh, go to the agenda and show you what we are going to look at. So it's basically having a good understanding on what we can do on these areas. So first we will be needing to understand what is DevOps. So I will not take much time because like most people have communicated the same thing in different ways, but we need to identify what is actually DevOps means and like what does it really stand for. And then we can explore about tracking, how to do tracking of the work, and like how we can track the work from inception to delivery, and what is the effective ways of handling that. And then we need to like any software development goes on a version control, and how a simple but straightforward and like useful branching strategy can help in increasing productivity regardless of the source control system that you're using. Is that what I'm going to focus on next? And then we will be having a bit of strategical look at deployments, because most people think the CI/CD is the main thing in DevOps, but it's not the case. But like it's also, I mean, it's still a valuable part of DevOps, being DevOps. But let's go and explore what we can do on those things, and then we will be looking at the automation of infrastructure. There's a simple typo in this one, like forget about it. But then we will be looking at the versioning strategy, and like what would be the ideal versioning strategy for like keep everything clear. And then we can go into a bit of detail in deployments and how we can do effective handling of deployment, and how we can protect our branches and ensure we have quality maintained in our deliveries of software. And what can blue-green deployment do for us is the next item that I will be just focusing on. And then couple of things like getting automated test into the pipelines, and like how that can help to enhance our productivity and being effective. And last but not the least, most important part of DevOps, that is monitoring and identifying diagnostic issues before they occur even. And then what is the value of the telemetry would be in the discussion. So let's begin with first looking at what is mean by DevOps. So this definition is derived by Donovan Brown. He was the principal DevOps manager at that time, but he is the principal cloud advocate manager at this time in Microsoft. And he names this as it's the union of people. So the most important aspect of DevOps is the people who are working in the team. So that is the most valuable part of being ready with DevOps. So people should be having the right mindset and right attitude to achieve DevOps. And then that set of people utilizing certain processes and tools. Like, I mean, the tool is irrelevant when it comes to implementing DevOps. You can use any tool you prefer, but like you should use some set of tools. So we will be mostly focusing on Azure DevOps, but there are many other tools as well. But it's the people who are important, and then people need to identify what works for them as a process, and then they need to work with couple of tools maybe. And the end goal should be providing the value to the end users. So that is the ultimate goal. So that is why we enforce looking at the telemetry data, looking at the monitoring aspect of it. Without those things, if you just implement CI/CD and if you believe you have done some DevOps, okay, I'm DevOps ready, my company is DevOps ready, that is not entirely true. And then when things start to fail with your customers, you can blame DevOps, but it's not the case, because you don't know how to implement DevOps is the main problem. So so we will just focus on what is actually implementing DevOps means, and what does it have to do with it. I mean, what does we have to do with it as development teams, and how we can approach that using tools, we can discuss further. So the first aspect would be looking and tracking at the requirements. So so I have a couple of screenshots here, but I'd rather like to go and show these things in actual view. Uh, so you need to make sure you are tracking the requirements and understanding the requirement uh, really well when you are implementing DevOps, right? So requirement is more important. And like if you are practicing agile, or like even if you are practicing traditional way of development, like traditional way of development actually requires you to gather requirements and sign off requirements, but agile way of development at least demands you to do some backlog grooming process to get an idea about your future requirement. While you're working on a certain schedule, you still need to go and clarify your backlog with your product owners, and then get back to the backlog and refine your backlog, prioritize, and get the team to clarify the things, and get ready with a proper set of requirements for your next cycle of development. Otherwise, what would happen is you will not know what to start when you are starting a sprint or a cycle. So it's not the tool, but rather how your people are ready with the requirements matters when it comes to tracking the proper requirements throughout your development cycle. So here, let me go into a different share maybe, and show you a couple of stuff, and then we can get back to slides. So let me share a couple of things here in just a second. So let me share my browser. Yeah. Okay. So here, like this is a project that I am handling, and this is actually following DevOps to a greater level. So let me show you a bad thing first. Like, okay, the first iteration of this one. If you have look at this first iteration, you can see our burn down is ugly, right? So you can see it's going up and down, up and down, up and down. So why this has happened? Because we started this project off like without actually being ready with a requirement set, but as we go on in the sprint cycle, we were adding stuff, right? So we were adding the requirements because daily we need to make sure our developers are working, our team members are having some work to do. So we had to keep on adding the work. So that actually made this all look horrible, because we didn't know whether we are able to complete the work, whether we are good with it. We couldn't predict anything. We just carry on. Okay, today we had some work, and then we do try to do that work. If the work is completed, we add more. So that is how we approach this one. Then we didn't have clear requirements, people implemented unwanted things, then we had to drop stuff. So that is what is happening in generally in teams. So why that is happening is because you don't have a clear cut idea about, okay, what you're going to do in next 2 weeks. So while we are working on this, we realized we are doing it bad, and then we actually invested time on doing some better backlog grooming and finding out, okay, what is the requirements that we need to do. So we started preparing a backlog, having set of team meetings and getting together as a team and discuss about the product that we are going to develop and the new features that are going to come up. And we started preparing a proper backlog. So that backlog came nicely, and I will not go into detail, but like I'll just give you a hint, like, okay, this is how we came up with the backlog. Uh, this is how we came up with the backlog, and this backlog actually helped us to get into a momentum. So when it comes to the next sprint, we had a ready backlog. So what happened in our next sprint, the sprint 2 or the iteration 2? It was not perfect, but still it was far better than the previous one, because we started off with certain set of requirements and we kept on burning down, and then we started smoothly working on the requirement one by one. So team actually effectively worked on the requirements, and then they tried to complete the work and get into some sort of a rhythm. But we couldn't complete with what we planned for. Still, we were good because we had a plan rather than like randomly trying to find out work and trying to do work and then throwing away stuff because we are not using any useful stuff. So this is how the tool can help, but the mindset was like everybody in the team wanted to have a proper backlog from there onwards. So everybody now believes in having a proper backlog. So we always make sure we have backlog grooming on time, and then team get ready and talk about the requirements and prioritize, clarify from the product owner and get the requirements ready so that we are on set of requirements ready for the next iteration or next cycle to implement. So that's how it goes. And like there are things that can help us to plan well, such as velocity. Like we are not actually using so much of things available here, but we utilize what will really help us. So we made sure we are doing some estimations properly. So we use an extension in Azure DevOps called Estimate, which helps us to play planning poker with the team, and then we actually size it relatively. So we actually taken on in the second sprint to do about 79 story points, but we only could achieve 34. So our ability of doing it was 34. So next cycle we actually reduce it to 67, because we know now we can't do 79, but we will give it a shot with 67. So that's how we choose. And then we are in progress, and maybe we will achieve some part of it, and we will learn from each and every cycle. We will learn and keep on monitoring these details, and then we will improve day by day. So DevOps is nothing but improving your team and processes in each cycle. So you are running a cycle, you just check up with your team, okay, what are the things that we have missed, what are the things that we need to improve, and then get back to the next cycle and make the corrections and move forward. So that is how the requirement tracking and the way we are working with the requirement is improved day by day. So this is really a practical way of implementing DevOps into one level, that is tracking requirements and getting ready with your requirements and processing through the things. So that actually, as a tool, Azure DevOps helps with you with the boards, etc. And if you are using some other tool, Jira or like any other management tool as Monday.com, even it doesn't matter, because like the thing is, regardless of the tool, the important part of it is you are getting the correct implementation by doing it right with the team and getting ready with the requirements before you start working on a particular sprint. So that is the utmost important thing. So Azure DevOps boards helps you a lot to do this. You can categorize with features and a lot of things. So I'm not going to discuss about all these features, but that is how it can help. Okay, with that, let me move back to my presentation and maybe into, okay. So the next thing is using a simple and effective branching strategy. So I'll be practically showing this to you, how it really works. So the thing is, many people, okay, you can call it master or main, like, I mean, if you feel like when you're calling a master branch, it's like master slavery thing. That's what Microsoft says when they rename stuff in GitHub, etc. to main. But if you want to call it main, it's fine. But master or main, it doesn't matter. You have a branch, and then when you are targeting a production release, right? So you should have a version target. Okay, so you are gonna deliver your version to the production. So whenever you start targeting a version, you can start creating a version branch. So a branch can be created as a version something with version number. And the next thing is, whenever you are working on a particular version, you shouldn't work on version directly. So instead of doing that, you should always take out a branch, simply call a feature or a story. It doesn't matter if you want to call story slash, fine, backlog slash, fine, but I prefer to call it feature slash. That's my terminology, but you can adopt any terminology. So you can call it feature branch and then your work item ID a dash, and you can implement something like that. So I'm utilizing these work item IDs for a purpose, because my bills and everything will be having this work item ID coming from feature. So whenever I'm doing work for a version or a target production release, I'm having a version branch, then I'm working on the feature branch. So once I start working on feature branch, okay, my multiple team members can commit their code into the feature branch, they check the feature, and once they're ready with the feature, what they do is make a PR. So when we are making a PR, there is a couple of things that needs to be done. Most people will be doing a code review. Yeah. But code review alone cannot guarantee that whatever the incoming feature is fully ready to be deployed to a production level. So in order to keep your version always ready for releasing to production, what you need to do is, whenever you make a PR, you take that PR build. Now, there is a mechanism in Azure DevOps where you can derive a PR build. PR build means a build will be taken from whatever the code available in your target version, and the delta code segments will be added from your feature branch, and then they will be merged together inside the build server. It's not actually merged, it's merged together inside the build server, and it will build a package and deliver that package. So that package is actually what is going to happen when you do put your PR into the version. So that package can be deployed to your QA environment, verified, tested, so that you are 100% sure, okay, once we merge this particular version or feature into the version, it's ready to be deployed. So that's how my team or I control this stuff. So always the feature will coming to the version after gone through a QA procedure. So we expect somebody to do proper testing in QA environment and then get it back to your version branch. So version is in already always ready state to go to production or go to the demo environment. So that's how a simple, but this is not complicated at all. You have just 3 levels of branching, and then whenever you do release a version to production, you always go and merge that uh, version details into master with a PR. So that PR goes in, and once the release made to production with, let's say, version 010 is released to production, then whenever you do that, you should merge stuff from your version 010 into master using a PR. And once that is done, any future versions that you're working on, your team can maybe working on parallelly on a couple of future versions. So you need to make sure whatever your changes in the master is getting merged into your future versions. That you can do in your Visual Studio Merge or something like that, or you can use Git command line, get both the versions into your local machine and do a merge. So you have to ensure and future versions are getting always updated with the changes from the master. And whenever you put stuff into version, you can take it to the feature branches of that particular version, and then you can make PRs with the new features. So that's how it should be going. And even when you're making hot fixes, it's really simple, because let's say you have 010 as the your version release. So your 011 can be kept as your next hotfix. So second hotfix can be 012, and your next version will be always 020. So it's up to you. It's easy to use three digits in this thing. And then whenever you're using a build, you always use a dot plus the build ID. So I'll show you how effectively it can be used in a moment in a practical terms. So the next thing is having an effective strategy for deployment. So whenever you do a set of branches, you need to identify how you plan for your builds and releases and what are your target environments. So when it comes to your branches, we have master, a version, and a feature. So version is targeting a production. Feature is something that is you're developing your story. Okay, whenever you do a feature development, you can, whatever you commit into the feature branch, it can be utilized by a CI build to build it. And you can take that CI build and release it to your dev environment on demand. So you can deliver it to dev environment on demand and test it on the dev environment. Especially if you're targeting cloud environments and doing development, it's ideal you test it in cloud, because I mean, your local test may working, but like you should ideally put it into your cloud environment and do the testing. So whenever your development team wants, they can put it into the dev environment and test it out. Okay, next thing. Once you make a PR, that PR build can go into the development environment if they want. If the developer wants to check the PR build before the QA starts looking at it, you can get it into your development environment and do a cycle of testing and say, okay, we are happy with it. And then PR build can go into the automated test environment. So if you have set of automated tests written, so that can be run on automated test environment, which can be defined. So that tests will tell you, okay, at least previously working cycles are working fine. Then maybe your manual QA people can take on that into the same release can be promoted into the QA environment and then do another testing cycle and say, okay, we are good with it. So your PR is good. So QA must approve the PR to say, okay, it's really good and we are seeing it off as good one and it can be taken into next version. But this particular PR bill should not never be released to production or beyond QA environment, because it is not something actually available as code in your repository. It's just built in the build server, merging version branch and incoming changes from the feature branch. So it's not actually existing code base that is you are testing. So once you put it back into the version, you need to do another cycle of testing. So version can be tested by developers on demand if they want it. and but it must go into the automated test environment. If you have automated test available, then it can be tested there, and it can proceed into your QA environment on passing of automated tests. It can go into your QA environment. If the QA is happy with it, they can promote it into demo environment. If you're using a product kind of a scenario, if you want to do some demonstration into with your clients, you can put it in your demo environment and show it to your clients, and then you can take it to the next level, that is staging or your UAT environment. So UAT environment, your clients will be testing, and then if they are happy, they will ask you to promote it to production. Else they will say, no, this is not good enough. So you have to go through the cycle again and come back to the staging. So whenever you are ready with it, you can go into the production deployment. So this kind of a strategic plan should be there for you. I mean, this is actually go hand in hand with your uh, branches, and how you implement your build pipelines, how you implement your deployment pipelines, and how you implement your test automations. So all together, you have to have a strategic deployment mechanism so that you are deploying reliably to your production environment. So this is the plan. Okay. So in order to achieve all these things, like this kind of a multiple environments, etc., you must have something called infrastructure as code. So if you are manually creating all these environments, your QA environments, let's say your QA environment data got corrupted or something, you should have a quick mechanism of initializing everything back to normal. So that is why the infrastructure as code is really important. So you can utilize several tools and technologies to implement infrastructure as code. Uh, so my preference when it comes to Azure is using Azure CLI, because it's faster for me, it's reliable for me. But you can use Terraform, you can use Pulumi. All these things works fine, and you can even go with ARM templates. So there are so many tools available, but the thing is, like, even if you're using AWS, you can still use Terraform. Uh, so there are so many tools available for you to do this, but it's important that you do that, because otherwise your development team or your teams, your operational teams or whatever your teams will not be able to provision a new environment with a quick time. So you need to have infrastructure as code in place so that you can quickly get an environment up and running. So if you need a new QA environment to do a particular testing on a hotfix, you just spin it up. You do the testing targeting that particular QA environment. Then once you're done, you can drop it off. So you don't have to worry about dropping off an environment, because you already have the set of scripts where you can recreate that environment in quick time. So that is the aspect of getting proper automation of infrastructure. If you have that, you are good at doing this DevOps in the right way, because it is an essential part to have infrastructure as code ready for your this thing. The other thing is having a versioning strategy. So if you are having proper branching strategy, then you need to worry about what is your versioning strategy. Now, if you are using the version, master, and feature branches, as I said, you can use this kind of a simple but effective versioning strategy. So whatever your feature branches builds, you can treat them as beta builds, which is not ready for production. It's just beta. You can do some deployment to QA and do the testing, and that is it. And then feature to your version PRs can be built as PR builds, which can be versioned as RC or release candidate versions. So this is a strategy I have come up with and which I am using, but it's up to you to come up with even if you want to create a additional branch for individual developers as develop out of feature branch, you can name them as maybe alpha. So it's up to you to come up with new strategies, but I'm using this simple strategy, and like it's effectively helping me out. So what I'm doing is, okay, when it comes to feature to version OPR, always I'm using that branch build as a RC build, which is actually still not ready for go to production, but it's ready to go to my QA environment and do some testing before I take in this feature into the version branch. So that is how I'm using it to be effective. Then the next step is getting this version merged into the uh, version branch. Like feature is getting merged into the version branch. So once the feature is getting merged into the version branch, it should create another build which is having nothing but your version number and the build ID. So simply the first part of it, 010, is the version number of your version branch. So you can see consistency all across the place. So whenever you are making a PR branch, you can see work item ID is utilized always, and the build ID is utilized, and always it is 00, and it is always saying work item ID. Okay, it's beta work item ID, and it is saying uh, PR, and then it's a work item ID. So this gives you an idea about, okay, which is the work item that is coming in. And when it comes to version, it will be always version plus the build ID. So you will know exactly this is cut out of version branch, and it is the this particular build of that particular version branch. So your version and your build ID is having the same thing, and your release pipeline should have the same ID continuously, so that your flow will be, I mean, really clear. This build ID is getting deployed with this particular release ID, which is having the exact same number format. But you need to have some couple of builds to validate your master. But whatever the validation happens to master, those versioning will not be released to production or released to anywhere. It's for the purpose of keeping a safe copy, but you don't need to release it. So that's why I always use a strategy called no release branches. So I name every build in this way: no release and the build ID, no release and the build ID. So that's how you can come up. I mean, it's my strategy, the how I use it, but which actually proven practically to work really well for me and effective for my team. But it's up to you guys to come up with your own strategy. Maybe you can find out faults in here and then improve it. But it's up, I mean, everybody should come up with their own strategy of having some sort of a versioning for proper deployments to targeting productions. Okay. So this is in detail steps of what is happening. So I think I have already explained this, but anyway, I will go through a couple of things again as well, because to give you a good idea. So whenever you are working on a feature branch, you should always go ahead and deploy it to dev environment and do testing as developers, just to verify everything is working fine. So especially in cloud environments, you should deploy it to your cloud and then test it out before you are saying, okay, QA, you can pick it up. And this version then always features will be coming into version, will be creating RC builds and getting tested in your automated test environments and QA environments by QA. And then with their approval only, you will be taking into version branch. So version branch then always go into another cycle of testing with QA, and it can go into demo or it can go into staging. And when you are using staging, it can go into a pre-prod kind of a slot. So we will be talking about that in a little while. And it can always go into a production. So this kind of a plan should be there with you guys whenever you are having. So it's important that the entire team has a really good understanding what is the process that we are following. So they need to know, otherwise they will be just doing stuff without adhering to the process. So the people aspect of it really important. Those people must be really aware of what is the current process that we are following. Optimizing that process in the next cycle is okay, but what is the current process that we are having, they should be aware, and what is the tool set that we are using, they should be aware. It doesn't matter what is the tool set, but whatever the tool set that you are using, you should use it properly to help your team. And after releasing to production, it should always come back to master, and from master into the future versions. So even if you create a hotfix out of a version branch, it should have a proper numbering. It should deliver to production as a hotfix. Once that is done, that version hotfix should come into master and go into future versions. So that should be the cycle. Now this will give you a fail-safe mechanism of doing your deployments. So that will take out one headache out of your software delivery process. Okay, so let's look at branch protection policies. Now, these branch protection policies are really nice thing when it comes to Azure Git repos. You have a really good one. I don't think this much of good one is available with GitHub, but I really like Azure Git Repo's capability of having these things. So let me go there and just show you a bit on that one, because it's really kind of useful thing that I'm always using. Okay, so in here, you can define your policies at the level of really root level to applicable to all version branches. So you don't need to go and repeat in every branch your policies. So you can go into repositories and just go to policies and say, okay, these are my branch policies for a given version. So if you go to version asterisk, and you can add couple of policies like this. So let me zoom a little bit. So this one you can say required minimum number of reviewers. So you can ask somebody to require has to review. Now your team members has to review, maybe your technical lead has to review. So at least two members other than the person who is authoring the PR should be reviewing your PRs. And then you can make it mandatory to associate a linked work item. Now you can do this as long as you're using the Azure boards for your requirement tracking. If you're using Jira or something like that, this is a bit impossible. But if you're using your Azure DevOps board, you can make everybody as a demand to commit with a work item. Okay, so your work item must be attached to your PR, otherwise you will not accept the PR. And then you can go and set comment resolution policies. That is, whenever you are looking at a PR, if you are seeing some sort of a bad code or like something needs to be fixed, if you're not liking the code because of it's not catering the business need, or if it can be improved with the proper code, maybe proper syntax, proper naming conventions or something like that, you can add comments. Now those comments must be resolved before you are merging a PR. You can enforce such a policy. And you can limit the merge types to your preferences, and then you can use squash merge or you can use basic merge. So those things actually you can explore in Git behaviors, what's the difference between each one, and then you can enforce a policy. And the other most important thing is whatever, like if especially if you are building up an application based on microservices like what I am doing here, so you might have multiple APIs, multiple functions, multiple things working together. So all these things can be independently deployed, and in a microservices world, it can be independently deployed. So, but you need to validate all of these incoming things. So there is this is the mechanism where you are validating whatever incoming changes into your version branches utilizing a build policy. So what I'm doing here is whatever the changes happening to my notification API or my partner API here or my staff API here are getting validated by that particular build. So that build will build and package the thing and ensure that is actually valid before it is getting into my version. So this particular build will generate an output which can be deployed to my QA environment and tested before I take in the change to the version. So this and like we should prevent it from triggering for unwanted code changes. That means like if the code change is not relevant to this particular path or something like that. Like for example, now you can see this partner stuff will be built only for services partner and partner API. So if we have any shared code changes or partner API changes, we will be building that. Otherwise, we are not building that. And if there is any other change committed to that particular branch, immediately it will be in this particular past build will be invalidated. So you need to rebuild again, deploy to QA again, and test it before merging it. So you are preventing some accidental issues that can happen by somebody else committing the additional code into the PR. So that way you can protect your branches, effectively protect your branches from incoming changes. And you can add further validations as groups. You can add a group of members, and you can add an individual. You can add additional individuals as optional. So you can get a lot of control over these things. Okay, so this what happens when you configure this kind of a cross policy across the repository. repositories in your team project, it will be getting applied to any branch that you create. Like for example, if you look at this particular repository, I have already got a version branch. If I go to the policies and if I check on the my guys are developing on certain features. So you can see if you go and click on this, it's already inherited from several. I mean, whatever we have specified to version asterisk is getting applied to any version branch that I'm creating. So if I'm creating version 100, version 200, 300, 400, it doesn't matter. All the versions will be applied with these set of policies. So I don't have to repeat doing that again and again. It will be applied as a central location. So you can create any number of version branches, still they would be protected. So that's how you need to protect your branches so that you are making your quality is maintained always in your version branches as production ready quality. Let me get back to the slides. All right, so that is what I have mentioned here, like the work item policy and the build policy and the comment resolution policy. All these three policies must be passed for you to continue with your PR. So your branches, version branches will be fully protected by this one. Okay, then additional code quality and security validations are important thing that we need to do in our teams. So you must have some sort of a static code analysis practices, etc. So SonarQube can help you in that, and there is a really good code security scanning tools available as Veracode. So you can, I mean, Veracode is a bit pricey, but still usable. Sonar you can implement on your own Sonar server, and you can use it for free, but you need to host it in a machine and expose it to your Azure DevOps services, and then you can utilize it and you can apply a gate here, like your build to pass if the Sonar validations are passed. So these kind of things are really important for you to maintain high quality code. So it's another aspect of doing that. And whenever you are having these deployments, even if you are using YAML pipelines for multiple stage deployments, you can now define environments with YAML deployments, and then for the things that you are deploying to another stage, you can add approvals and checks. So you can even write a work item query if there is any high priority bug in this iteration. You can stop it is from getting beyond your QA environment. So you can add a check. So if it's something to go past the QA environment, this particular release, you shouldn't have any bugs reported in your any high priority bugs reported in your current iteration. So that kind of validation you can put with gates. So that sort of control will help you to make sure that uh, your process is in place so that you are not skipping anything before you looking at the production deployments. The next thing is like Azure and these DevOps tools will be helping you to do some sort of deployment strategy called blue-green deployment. Now, blue-green deployment involves with like you're always going live with the blue environment and your green environment is always ready for the deployments. So this implementation can be achieved using if you're using any Azure app services like platform services, let's say service slots. I mean, you can, if you're using app services or function apps, you can use deployment slots and achieve this blue-green kind of a deployment environment. And there are additional tools such as Traffic Manager and Azure Front Door, which is also supporting this kind of like, because they are actually doing traffic routing into different, like you can have multiple applications deployed, multiple web APIs or web applications or web services deployed, and then they can be working as the live version, and then there can be similar environment or copy of that environment working as a deployment environment. So you can always deploy to the new environment and then switch the environment using Azure Traffic Manager. And even Azure Front Door allows you to do switching even global scale. So that is another three things that you can utilize, like tools wise you can use these stuff But regardless of the tool, it's better to implement some sort of a mechanism without giving a long downtimes to your clients, having a strategy to do the deployment in a nicer way. So that is another important aspect of this one. Uh, why we are considering all these things is actually when it comes to cost of bugs, it's really higher when it is discovered in the production, because it might have impacted your clients in a very bad way. Their reputation might have been lost because of a simple bug that you create in their product. So it's really costly effect when it comes to production bugs. So as sooner that you identify your bugs at the design time or at the requirement phase, that will be the better place to fix the bugs at least in your development or your coding time. So this can be facilitated only if you doing proper backlog grooming, proper identification of requirements. So DevOps is not all about creating a CI/CD pipeline. So it is about how you work, how you work as a team, how you work correctly as a team to identify requirements from the beginning and identify any defects in your designs, identify any defects in your requirements before they reach into the production level. So that is the important aspect of DevOps. And the next part is like if you are having any functional tests and anything, you can always have your deployments done and then get your functional test integrated into your uh, pipelines. So this is one of the thing that I have already done. So these projects I can't show you off, but this is practically how I achieve the deployment. And then in the next set of steps, I'm doing functional test execution. So once I deploy to my QA environment, I can do the deploy testing on that particular target deployment. So you can create two-phase deployments. So you can utilize the tools in the right way and create the functional tests and execute them in the deployment pipeline to be more effective. And when it comes to Azure DevOps, it facilitates so many things. Even your headless testing can be attached as a video into your uh, pipeline, so that once your tests are complete, you can see a screen capture video of your test. So your reproduction of your bugs or anything, let's say automated test reported a bug. So how to reproduce that bug can be easily viewed by this particular attached video. So there are possibilities. You can attach images. There are possibilities that you can attach videos, etc., into your pipeline. So those things will really help leverage how to do proper DevOps. Like now these are features only, but you need to use it and you need to find the benefits out of these to become effective in DevOps. The other most important aspect of this DevOps is how you monitor, how you do the diagnostics, and how you do the telemetry. Now, monitoring is actually looking at how your system works, and when you are using certain threshold of, let's say, you configure your Azure app service with certain set of memory and a certain set of pricing tier, SKU with certain memory and certain CPU power, and you should keep on monitoring that. You can set up alerts to give you an alert if it is reaching 80% of CPU or something like that. And then based on those alerts, you can have automated pipeline setup to increase, maybe size increase. You can set up like that, or you can at least monitor that and get into manual action, at least increase that size, so that before you hit an issue with like there's low performance in your site, you should be getting alerted, and then you should proactively take actions to uh, minimize that one. And if you're using Kubernetes kind of environments, you can enable autoscalers so that it goes on adding more pods and nodes, so you can facilitate that. So like monitoring is depending like how you are looking at your problems and how you are like resource usages you need to monitor, and you can set up automated actions on them, or you can set up manual actions. You monitor them and take manual actions. Either way, what is important in DevOps scenario is you need to make sure you monitor it and you take actions before problems occur. And diagnostic also having the same thing. Like diagnostic aspect of it would be looking at any errors or any issues that are occurring in your production system. Maybe it's not noticeable by the clients. It might randomly gives an error, but those random errors you shouldn't ignore. You should dig deep and find out, okay, what is the reason behind this particular issue that is coming up occasionally, and you need to take the necessary actions to rectify those issues. So that is how diagnostic approach should be there. And the most important part of your uh, monitoring is telemetry. Telemetry is how you look at the usage data of your system. Why this is important is, let me check time. Okay, I think I have about 6 minutes. So the telemetry is important because you need to make sure whatever you are doing in your application, what are the most used parts, what are the least used parts. So for example, you might have several features and functionalities developed in your application or in your product, but out of that maybe 20% is highly utilized, and while 80% of it is not that much utilized. So how about you are enhancing a feature that is 1% or 10% used in your system, while you are just not giving any attention to 80% used portion of your application. That means some features are highly utilized. Now, whatever small enhancement you make to your application should be done in that highly used parts. So highly used parts, when you enhance those features, that will be effectively applying to your end users. That is the value generated for end users, because end users will see that functionality often because they're really using it. Most people are using that. So if a small enhancement made to a something that is really used or highly used, it will be effectively applying to many people, many end users as a positive thing. But if you enhance something that is rarely used, it will be occasionally seen. Like for example, if you are having a banking application or something like that, maybe your cash withdrawal or something like that, if you can enhance, that is more effective than you are changing feature like new employee adding, because bank will not recruit new employee every month or every day. It's rarely used process compared to your cash withdrawal process. So that is how you need to generate value. To generate such value, you need to know the telemetry. But when you know the telemetry or your usage data of your application, you will know which part of the application is most used and which part of the application needs more resources, which part of the application needs more attention and more feature enhancements. So that is how you improve in the next cycle of your delivery. So that is also included in the DevOps. So it's not away from DevOps. So like you can't say you are using DevOps if you are not doing these stuff. If you are not doing monitoring, if you are not doing diagnostic monitoring, if you are not doing telemetry analysis, you are not really doing DevOps. If you just implement a CI/CD pipeline and your delivery is automated, doesn't mean that you are following DevOps. Your requirement gathering, your monitoring, your diagnostic, your telemetry, everything matters in DevOps. So that is how you can be effective. Then only your client will actually see the end value, or that will be the way to generate value to your client. So that will give your clients the advantage of utilizing your system or happiness of using your system, so that it will return as a good income to your company or your product. Okay, there is one other thing that I want to mention. Like there's a really good thing about security aspect of it you need to worry about, because your client data is most valuable. So DevOps, like some people talk about DevSecOps and all those things, but that is I think unnecessary to call it DevSecOps, because DevOps is all about having proper security as well. So if you are talking about pipelines, if you are talking about automated deployments, if you are talking about having proper software delivery, quality software delivery, you need or you must consider the security aspect of it as well. So you can't just forget about since you are doing DevOps, since you are not doing DevSecOps, you just can't say I'm forgetting about security aspect of it. No, DevOps says security is also an integral part of it and it must be implemented properly. So if you're using Azure as a platform, there is a really good Azure DevOps, Azure Security Kit. which can actually integrate with pipelines, which is giving you a benefit of scanning. So let me just jump into a screen and show you a bit of how the pipelines are implemented in a minute, and then I'll end the session. Let me try to jump to this one. Okay. Uh, Let me try to go to pipelines and just now this is not 100% completed yet, but I'll just show you to give you an idea how this can be used. So if I show you this one, this YAML pipeline is a deployment pipeline. I'm trying to deploy it to my dev environment. And once I deploy my resource group into that one, you can see I have used security scanning, right? Azure security verification tests I am performing on my dev environment. So I'm providing my resource group name via parameter and doing a security scanning there. So once I execute this kind of a pipeline, let me show you an executed one already. Now it's giving a failure. Why it's giving a failure, I'll show you. So it's actually deploying fine my resources. So it goes on and deploy my Azure resources fine with whatever the things that I have defined to deploy. I only defined resource group and a service bus to be deployed. So it's deployed fine, but in the verification test, it has one failure. It has checked couple of things, it has given past, and then couple of things it says manual. So any of these manual things you can say it to be treated as failures or it to be treated as past by defining a variable. In the security kit there is a target them as failures or not. But for the failures, you have to look at the diagnostic logs and you need to fix them. So I have not yet fixed this one, but it's reporting something accessibility issue is there. So whenever you deploy your Azure resources, it's really good if you can execute these verification tests in your pipeline itself, so that it is giving you an assurance that your environment setup is actually secure in the level of expected by Microsoft, like all the Microsoft considerations or rule sets. It's adhering to the proper security protocols. So that kind of testing can be done. So you can link all these facilities into your pipelines even and get it done. So these are a couple of things that I have shown you, but I have mostly talked about the conceptual level of it, how to get it done. And the tools can be available, but still what is important is how you use it, how you utilize it with your people so that it can be effective. All right, so that can end my session. So I think it was useful to you.
Yeah,
Uh,
thanks, Chandrasekara. It was really nice session. Hi guys, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and can ask, or even though you can put in the chat box if you have anything. Okay, Chandrasekara, I have a few questions. One is related to the YAML pipe, means like YAML file. How exactly means, because I'm completely new to the DevOps, but I'm quite interested. But how we generate the YAML, the file? It's auto-generated, or we can use some tools to generate the YAML file.
You can handwrite the YAML file if you want, but
Okay.
if you are a beginner of CI/CD implementation, ideally you shouldn't be trying to do it manual, because like it's a bit of like hectic work. So what you can do is still you can use the classic pipelines. So you can use a classic pipeline, build pipeline, and then Microsoft recently updated their feature set. So when you go into a particular pipeline, you can download or export the YAML as well. Previously it was like VYAML, but it was not properly structured. But right now it's actually allowing you to download the entire pipeline as a YAML. So then you can take that YAML and learn from it and implement it. So that would be the ideal way if you're beginning with YAML.
Yeah, and there is one question by Evan. Suppose we already define and create a branch release, and some features are not decided in to be in release. Should we just leave that feature, or further it can be pull request to another version branch? You
Yeah,
can.
you should. I mean, that thing has happened into me practically. So whatever feature that I am thinking of targeting version 1, I couldn't release it to version 1. So what happens is, like when it comes to version 2, I can target it to version 2 as a PR, and go ahead with the deployment. So when I'm trying to do that, maybe I have to merge version 2 into my feature again and test it there, and then do the PR. So that way you can proceed with that.
Okay. Okay, thanks everyone. I think I have a few minutes because my slide was not moving initially. So let me just share my screen quickly and announce. So if you guys want to present or organize a session, so you can contact any one of us, and we are quite open, and you can contact any one of the organizer, or you can join us on the Facebook and meetup group. So we are a part of the Microsoft Singapore user group, and Azure Singapore is a part of it, and there are a couple of other meetups as well for the data and AI. So all you can join us on the meetup group here, and we have done a couple of sessions in the past. So if you are interested, you can just go into the Azure Singapore sessions with the bit.ly link, and can see all the recordings available there. And yeah, so today's session recordings will be available by the end of this week. And related to today's session, there are a couple of DevOps sessions we have done before. So you can see the YouTube links, and all these sessions are available on our YouTube channel. So you can just go and take a look there. And this is our YouTube channel, Microsoft MVP means like group. So you can just go and take a look all of this channel there. Yeah, and there are also some chart busters we have done before. So yeah, at the end, thank you very much for joining the session today, and Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year to all of you from Azure Singapore community. And we hope means see you by next year. So at the end of this month, we are taking a small break. Yeah. Chandrasekara, thank you so much for joining us today and presenting a really nice topic. It's really interesting. Maybe I will keep in touch with you later on also, and have another opportunity to present on another DevOps sessions. Yeah, and actually for me it's also quite interesting to be like this topic, and yeah, I will do something then. Will come to you. Thank you so much again for presenting today.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thanks guys. See you.